And welcome into the RinkWise Podcast. I'm Patrick Donnelly. With me is Evan Marinofsky. High school hockey season is here. We're recording this the Monday after Thanksgiving. That means it's tryout seasons for, I guess, pretty much everyone, unless you're still playing high school football and you're going to Gillette. But we're here to preview the MIAA boys and girls seasons. Evan, how are you?
I'm great, Pat. I remember the stress, the anxiety, the nervousness in my stomach those Mondays right after Thanksgiving. And even leading up to it, I remember like freshman year at Framingham, tryouts were a big thing. You skated till you dropped like the first 2 days. And it was like, I remember like eating different things in the days leading up to it so I wouldn't puke. And like the day of, you're eating like basically nothing for lunch. Like it was talked about like it was this, like you were going to hell on earth. It was fine. Like it wasn't anything insane, but like it's still just like, oh my God, like what if I'm the one to throw up? And it was completely fine. Like it was a lot of skating, but it was not as bad as everybody made it out to be. Then in the years after, like I think my sophomore year was like, oh my God, I want to make the team, and then you do, and then tryouts after that aren't so bad. But I know I have a cousin who's a freshman. And he's going in, like, I saw him on Thanksgiving, and it's that same kind of nervous energy where it's like, oh boy, this could go a lot of ways. So I remember this. I'm glad I don't have to still deal with that. But I remember it well.
Same here. I remember being extremely nervous, especially like, coming into MC. I think they had won 3 in a row, Super 8s, and it's, oh boy, and like you're up there in a drill, and it's like, oh, I'm me going up against insert, I don't know, Pat Harrington or John McClain, like the top 2 defensemen on the varsity my freshman year, and I'm like, I'm gonna get freaking killed, and I probably did. I don't really remember. I remember, drills I had never done before, and like bantam youth hockey, and I was like, what the hell is going on here? Just don't make a fool of yourself. Don't screw up. But it was fine. Made the freshman team. Had a fun year. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's that time, and it ends up being fine. But I remember that so well, and like that day, everybody being like, "Oh, you're having that for lunch? Oh, I don't want that coming up." It was a scary time. One thing I want to note, by the way, is that we will not just have MIAA coverage this year. We aim to have coverage from all states in New England, not all 50 states, but all New England states. For high school hockey, boys and girls. Connecticut has been going up. Rhode Island will go up later this week. Maine will go out throughout this week as well. Vermont and New Hampshire, we're still sorting out. But there's more than just the MIAA. Pat, I know you hear this. I certainly do. Lots of parents throughout the season. Where's Connecticut? Where's Rhode Island? Where's Maine? Where are all these states? They're coming. They're coming now. So that's a good thing. I'm excited about that. And it'll be a nice addition to our expansive, extensive hockey coverage now until end of March.
Yeah, we're, like you said, adding those in. Some of you may recognize Sam Rob O'Hagan from other stories he's written for the mag, or, New England Soccer Journal coverage. He does good stuff, and, we'll have a good team covering those states. I remember last year specifically, you and I got the Rhode Island question, and we kind of looked at each other. Well, it's just the two of us doing prep and MIA. We can only do so much. But good to add everyone to the stable there. Let's jump in with your boys' MIA preseason rankings. We'll go through the top 10 here. We'll have some players to watch, leftover thoughts. Entering the year, what's your overall take on the public and Catholic high school season?
Yeah, I think right now it's an interesting group. It's an interesting grouping. I don't see a true favorite. When I look at my top 10, which went out Monday, your girls, which we'll get to in a second, that went out Monday as well. There's no true favorite. To me, there is definitely a number 1 team, but I don't think they're a tier above number 2, 3, 4, and 5. It's pretty open. I know it's cliche to say. I don't see there being a true favorite. I see teams that are at 7, 8, 9 making their way up throughout the season. The teams at the top are volatile. They could move down. I think there are teams that are in the hunt that could jump in. Last year on the boys' side, the top 10, it was the same 10 teams throughout the season, pretty much. Like, it was rare that a team jumped in. It was more so just the order shifted. They stayed pretty much the same throughout. I think this year will be different. We're also including Division 2 in our rankings this year because there's some Division II teams that are so good that it's like it would really be kind of stupid to leave them out. So there is a Division II team, and we'll get to some of them in this episode, which is another way we're expanding things, which is great. But yeah, I don't see there be a clear favorite. I think it's open, and I'm excited for what happens. I'm excited to see how this all shakes out. I think this could be a year where a public school makes a good run. I could also see 2 Catholic, private schools in the final too. And I know that's like annoying to say, but I don't think there's a clear favorite in this group. I think that's what's kind of hindering me from having a not sitting on the fence, I guess.
Yeah, it's good you mentioned the D2 point because, girls MIA, there's only the 2 divisions, so it's easy to get a Duxbury or a Milton or who have you who's playing against the D1 team on a given night or something like that, and they're good teams that are just as worthy as or just on that same level, I should say, and you kind of get that throughout the MIA, not to cross sports, but in girls soccer, I had Medfield, which is D3, at the top of my final rankings for the season.
Wow, I didn't know that.
They won the D3 title. If in the regular season, like MIAA's own power rankings, they would have comfortably been number 2 in Division 1. And they had 4 D1 commits, the highest scoring offense in the state. They were that good. Anyways, we'll jump in to your top 10. That's enough soccer for now. This is a hockey podcast after all. Number 1, Catholic Memorial. What do you make of them?
I said this to you in both prep episodes, boys and girls. I can't stand when people rank the former champs as number 1 just because they're former champs. I think it's the biggest cop out. I don't think what you did last year has any bearing on where you are this year, especially in high school and in prep schools where your roster's leaving. You're losing people. That said, I do think CM is that good. CM is fortunate to bring back now freshman Jackson Fleming, 2010 netminder, who is, he was fantastic in the fall for the Minuteman Flames, led them to a state title last year as a 14-year-old, which is still mind-bogglingly crazy. He's really good. And having him come back is a huge advantage for them. And one of the things I was so happy about, and I'll do a second here on Fleming, was he came back. There are a lot of people who would be very tempted after, hey, I want a state title as an 8th grader. I can go to prep. He's staying where he has the net. He has the CM net. And by the way, CM has some fantastic goalies behind him. Someone mentioned to me recently, who isn't at CM, who was like, CM might have the best 3 goalies in high school. And 2 of them aren't going to play that much. Fleming's that good. Fleming's going to be a guy that USHL teams, QMJHL teams are watching this winter. And he stayed at CM where he has the net. Good for you. I'm glad he did that because, again, at that age, at 15 years old, the most important thing is reps, maximum amount of pucks on net that you're facing. And I'm happy that Fleming is back. He's a huge addition. And then you get into, they lost a lot on D. They lost Colin Yandel. They lost Brendan Martin. James Baker, senior's back. He is a phenomenal 2-way defenseman, one of the better defenders in prep. Liam McKinney's another huge addition, huge guy that they're bringing back as well. Up front, Christian Hinkle, Jack McCourt, AJ and Costitis. To me, they have a lot of core pieces back from last year's team, which last year's team wasn't very flashy. They were never like, oh, this kid's so fantastic. This kid's nasty. You can't miss him. Colin Yandel is great on the back end, but he's not a flashy. He's very solid, reliable, and he'll be great at Cushing this year. But he's not some flashy, oh my God, you can't miss him. They were just a really good team. They're well coached, great in net, and they were deep up front, and they're still deep up front. They have good guys on D, and they have Jackson Fleming in net. So to me, I look at CM, they're number 1. Not number 1 because they won last year. They're number 1 because they're number 1 this
year. Yeah, not a lifetime achievement award. Number 2, as much as it pains me to say it, you have St. John's Prep. Always in the mix, always near the top, begrudgingly. What's up with the Prep this year?
Yeah, a lot of people hate on St. John's Prep. I was seeing, I think Natick beat them in the boys soccer final. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
All the replies were like, yeah, St. John's Prep lost. It's like, oh my God, where's this all come from? They're fine. And by the way, as someone from Framingham, I don't like seeing Natick succeed. So maybe I'm biased on that. But back to hockey, we're doing a lot of soccer here, Pat. They lose AJ Parisi in net. That definitely hurts, and that kind of knocks them down a little bit, but they still have a deep D-core. You have J.R. Goldstein back, who could have gone prep, could have gone to a prep school, stays at St. John's Prep. He was really good when I watched him in the fall. He is not against taking chances when rushing the puck, jumping in the offense. He was already really good last year as a junior. I think as a senior is going to be even better. Kevin Correa, Sefton Parody, they're going to have to step up on D. I think they are definitely ready to do that. And someone that I really like up front is Brandon Ward. He was a goal scorer last year. He's one of my top players entering this winter for the MIAA. I think as a senior, he's going to open some eyes. Very curious to see what he does next. I think Brandon Ward is a good post-grad candidate for prep, someone that maybe junior teams should go take a look at. I like him a lot. I think he's going to be a star. And then Chase Brown and Gavin Anderson are two people that I think are going to have some high upside up front. So St. John's Prep's always in it, Pat. I mean, every freaking year, they're always in it towards the end. They won the state title 2 years ago. So to me, St. John's Prep is in number 2. But again, Pat, like, we're going to get into 3, 4, 5. You could make a case for any of these teams to be somewhere in the top 5 that isn't where I had them. So St. John's Prep, though, they're my number 2 team right now.
Number 3, Pope Francis, another team that's always seemingly in the mix down the stretch, or at least very high in your rankings, and, kind of at times may fly under the radar doing their thing out in Western Mass. What's up with the Cardinals?
Yeah, they were a team I think they were like my team that I thought was gonna win last year. I had them like they were the number 1 seed overall. They get to the semifinal and they lost to CM 1-0. To me, they're, as you said, Pat, they're always in it. I think they return a really good team. You have players like Matt Regan, Liam Dolan. Get ready for this name, Wolfgang Zinger. What a fantastic name. I will never get sick of saying or writing that name. That is such a fantastic name. They are going to be huge up front. You have Jack Goggin, Mason Gaudreau on D. And then you lose Nick Ritchie in net, who won a state title for them, was really successful. And George Ramsey, a junior, should be one of their top guys in net. So losing, kind of like SJP, losing your longtime starting goalie definitely hurts, and it's not going to put you at 1. But you have goalies with something to prove in net who have proven in the past that they're capable. They should be able to, a guy like George Ramsey should be able to step in. But they have enough up front that they should still be a really good team. I have them at 3. You're right, they do fly under the radar sometimes. But to me, Pope Francis is absolutely going to be a top 3 team entering this year. No question about that.
Yeah, Nick Ritchie, not to be confused with Bruins legend Nick Ritchie.
That's right. What a fantastic! I love that. What a name to share an NHL. NHL player to share a name with.
No Wolfgang Zinger, but
no,
still a good name. Number 4, St. John's Shrewsbury. They were the runners up last season. Quite a, I don't want to say improbable, but somewhat against the odds run with all their injuries. What's their story coming into the year?
Yeah, they were a fun story last year. We write, Pat, you and I write before the playoffs start. We're like, who are the sleeper teams? Who are the teams that could make a run that aren't in the top 10 or low in the top 10? St. John Shrewsbury was one that I put in mine at the end because, like, all right, if you get Daniel Minyalkin back, who was arguably the top player in all of high school last year, like, all right, yeah, you could, but that's still one player coming off an injury. You never really know. They end up going all the way to the Garden to getting to within a goal. Colin McCarthy's back in net. He was on JV last year as their goalie. He's a junior now. He played on the biggest stages. He has the job. He should absolutely be a huge advantage for this team, especially coming off last season. Connor Seacrest on D. They missed him for most of the season last year. I believe he's an Army baseball commit. I know he's committed for baseball. He is someone that Michael Mead is going to be relying on quite a bit. Up in any situation. They also have Ashton Smith, Kevin Bisson on net, not on net, on D. And then Ryder Bisson, not Bisson. Oh my God. I can't talk today, Pat. Kevin Bisson and Ryder Bisson. They are brothers. And Ryder Bisson is particularly really good. He was with the U16 Eagles this fall. He was fantastic. Scored 2 big goals in their championship. So they're really good on defense. They should be deep. And then up front, you got, Brady Chenevert, Tyler Bergman, Jaden Wazorek. They should, their problem the past couple of years, Pat, has been consistency. They've struggled with that, especially playing in the Catholic Conference. But to me, they are absolutely a team. They have what it takes. Even losing Minyalkin, they have what it takes to be not just one of the top teams in the Catholic Conference, but being one of the top teams overall. They should absolutely be in and around that top 5 from start to finish.
Yeah, it's always fun to, hockey podcast, but it's always fun to see the players I see either baseball in the spring or soccer in the fall. Connor Seacrest, I think, is Navy. Brady Chenever is a UMass commit for baseball, gets lefty pitcher for them. And with CM, Liam McKinney's been a great player through 2 years. Number 5, Hingham. Cam McKenna, senior captain, back in the fold. What's with the Harbormen?
Yeah, again, another team that's always in it. That's a common theme among all these teams. The Harbormen are always in it. They're going to be near the top of the public school charts. They are my number 1 public school team entering this year. Cam McKenna, having him back is huge. 24 goals last season, has one of the best shots, if not the best shot, in all of high school hockey. An absurd release. And he's another one that I put kind of with Brandon Ward, where it's like, what are they going to do after this year? Like, if I'm a prep school that has post-grads, I would be very interested in them. If I'm a Division III school, I would definitely go take a look at Cam McKenna. He's that good of a goal scorer. Nick Bigelow's another one that should take a big step. He had 19 points last season. And then on D, senior captain Coleman Donahue, they have Sean Carroll back. They'll be core players. And then in net, James Whitmore is a, 07 senior, a little unproven, but they have the pieces there. They're always deep. And, Tony Messina always has younger players coming up and making an impact that, weren't there the year before. So Hingham to me is absolutely going to be in and around it. I know that other public schools might disagree. Other public schools might think that they have the edge, but Hingham is my top public school entering this winter.
Speaking of a public school that may disagree, number 6 is Arlington, another public that is just always around the mix. Spy Ponders, what's their story?
I can already hear John Missouri calling me. Or John's usually pretty realistic with his teams. He's usually like, we stink. We're like number 15. Why are we at number 6? They are at number 6 though, and they lost a lot. Now, if you lose JP Missouri, which is a huge loss, you lose Kirk Beck, who committed to Providence College over the summer to both go to Dexter. That's a huge loss. They may have the best player in high school hockey this winter in Nolan Russell. Nolan Russell was already nasty last year, super skilled, high-end skill forward for Arlington last year and the year before that. But played with the Brookline Whalers, which was essentially Dexter's fall team during the fall. And he wasn't just like holding his own. He was one of their better players on the power play and always producing. And to me, like, yeah, there's a lot of good players around him, but a lot of it was stuff he created himself. So to me, Nolan Russell absolutely could be the top player in high school hockey this year. It's up to him to do it. He's going to have to be the guy, though, up front. No question about it. He is going to have to drive a lot of play. You have Cam Petrillo as well, who's 6'2". He's a great forward. So Arlington, you never want to put a lot on one player, but I do think they are. Someone like Nolan Russell, it's going to be how far a kid like Nolan Russell can take them, which is far. And John Missouri does like this team a lot. He's adamant that they're good. They were on the cusp of getting to the Garden last year. They come up just short against St. John's 4-3. So, like, they think they can go right back. They think they can go back, and I think Nolan Russell's their key to doing so.
Number 7, another Catholic Conference team, Xaverian. Dave Spinelli seems to believe in their depth this season. What do you make of the Hawks?
Yeah, it's going to come down to depth. That's what it's going to have to be. Rolling 4 lines. That's their thing. They don't really have a star. Joe von Handorf is going to be big for them. And then, Spinelli really likes Connor Kutwicki, a junior goalie in net. So those are going to be the bedrocks, but for them, it's depth. It's depth. And can you grind it out against St. John's Prep, against BC High, against St. John Shrewsbury, against CM? Can you grind it down? Because the Catholic Conference is going to be really good this year. The last couple of years, Xaverian usually ranks higher than 7. 7's really high, but higher than 7. So they should have a chip on their shoulder this year. That's the thing, is like, that's lower for them. So I think, they should be good. They should be in and around it. And they could be a team that is a sleeper that we kind of overlook a little bit. So, but it's up to them. They have to prove it.
Number 8, Reading. The Rockets probably out for some revenge after the playoff run last season probably ended a little earlier than expected.
Yeah, you lose to Barnstable in double OT, which is heartbreaking. You lose in the round of 30, in the round of 64. So But not 64, 32. What am I talking? I'm thinking of March Madness. Reading bowed out really early last year. They had a really good team. So that's always a huge motivating factor coming back. Jack Melly's going to lead the forwards. Nate Vitarisi, really good two-way defender. Put up a lot of points last year. Should put up even more this year. The Middlesex League is difficult. No question. You have Arlington. You got Winchester. They're going to be really good. But Reading, to me, is a team that should be able to eke out these wins. And they're well coached. All these teams are really well coached. I mean, if you go watch an MIAA game, the structure is absurd. So a team like Reading can beat, we say this every year, a team like Reading can beat a CM or a St. John's Prep by playing really stingy defense. And I think Reading is going to have that identity this year. No question about it. So yeah, Reading comes in at number 8 for me.
Moving on to number 9 as we wrap up the top 10. BC High, color me if you've heard this, or color me shocked with another Catholic Conference team.
Yeah, all our public school friends, Pat, they're getting a little sick of us. I don't blame them. BC High is interesting because the last couple of years, they haven't had a lot of high-end talent. And they win games 1-0, 2-1. Like when I think of an MIAA game, I think of BC High. That's how they play. Losing Drew Karlovitz is difficult. You knew it was going to happen. He ends up at Dexter Southfield. But I still think they're okay. Nolan O'Sullivan. I can't speak today. I still think they're going to be okay because Nolan Sullivan is going to lead the forward core. And then, you have a lot of guys throughout the lineup who have something to prove. And that often is the most important thing. Max Ryan up front, Tommy Masilo up front, Landon Littlewood. Cal LaPointe should be their top defenseman along with Brendan Sprague, Mike Lynch, and Jamie Tierney. So, for me, if you are old and you have guys who want to prove themselves, I speak of this from personal experience. That was my senior year at Birmingham. You can find success. You're going to win games. You're going to be really good because you have the vets and you have guys with chips on their shoulder. And BC High has that. They have the tradition of BC High. John Flaherty is a very good coach. So to me, BC High could end up being a really good sleeper team. I could see BC High being someone that, ends up as high as 4 or 5 throughout the season and make some noise come the tournament. I could absolutely see it.
We'll wrap up the number 10 spot with, you teased it earlier, the D2 team. We have Canton.
I struggled over this. I always get on people when they're haggling over a top 10 list. They're like, I don't know who to put as 10. I'm just like, put someone who cares. It can change. I really struggled with this because I've never had a Division II team there before. To me, it came down to Canton, Winchester, and Tewksbury. I went with Canton. They lost their first game of the season last year. They lost, unfortunately, the last in the D2 state final. But they have so many guys coming back that it's like this team's going to be a wagon. Joey Ryan had 49 points last year up front. Ryan Elric has been someone that I've always really liked. He had 41. Andrew Gillis, Shane Kelleher, Cameron Gershuni, if I can say that correctly. They're all back. On defense, Teddy Schumann, Grady Carr, Matt Wright's a senior in net. They have it. Pat, they have it. So Canton to me is a really good candidate coming out of D2. I put Tewksbury with them in D2 and Winchester in D1 as teams that are right on the cusp of getting in, but it's hard to ignore Canton. It would be irresponsible of me to make a top 10 list and leave Canton off of it. Canton's that good. And Canton could go higher. I'm very curious to see what they do this year, their schedule, how they play, and if they can kind of keep up with what they did last year, because they were freaking nasty last year, and I expect them to be freaking nasty again this year.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but they have it.
It's that makes 2 of us. I don't know what it is either.
Yeah. Other teams in the running, you mentioned Winchester, you mentioned Tewksbury, Arlington Catholic in there, Marshfield, Archie's, Braintree, St. Mary's, Billerica, and Milton. What stands out to you from this group of teams fighting to get in?
Yeah, I mean, some of these, they're all typical. Marshfield usually is a typical in the publics, for the publics. They struggled at times last year. Braintree is always on the cusp. Braintree's always one of those teams that's 10 through 14. That's usually them. Billerica's really good in Division II. Milton, I've heard some hype about. So I think they're going to be in and around it. St. Mary's of Lynn, always really good. You lose Matthew Smith in net. I think that's sort of what put them outside of the 10 for me. I thought they would go pretty deep last year. So again, they have something to prove this year. And then you have like Archie's. They lost a lot. Arlington Catholic, they should be in it again. So those teams, we're going to get to some players in a bit, so I don't want to highlight too many of those guys, but those teams are going to be in and around it. And then maybe there's some others. Maybe Framingham High. Maybe that's the day I retire, Pat.
Maybe a Malden Catholic.
Malden Catholic, maybe too. Like the day that I get to put Framingham or Malden Catholic in the top 10 is the day that I'm like, that's my last story. George Costanza heading out on a high note. We're done here. So until that happens, I'm still here. So sorry, everybody.
You mentioned a couple more players we're going to get to. Let's get to them now. A bunch of these players and your players to watch, which will be coming out later this week, we've already mentioned, but we'll touch on some we haven't, or schools we haven't already either. You got Tyler Borgia at Tewksbury. You got Colin Walsh with Framingham, Axel Osborne with Winchester, and Stephen Constantine with Arlington Catholic.
Yeah, I'll start with Colin Walsh at Framingham, because we're just talking about Framingham. 2010, he was outstanding last year, 32 points. He was a top player for the River Rats this fall on that 15 team. I think he's someone that is a borderline Division I prospect. I expect him to light it the hell up this winter. I do. I think he should have a lot of points. He had 32 last year. He's so smart offensively. He is always in the right place. He always finds scoring areas. Kind of like a Morgan Geeky in a sense, Pat. I almost said Connor because we're talking Bruins.
Welcome to Bruins Beat.
That's right. Welcome to Bruins Beat. He's so good at that. Colin Walsh is so good at that. So he's someone that I'm absolutely watching this fall, and I like a lot.
Yeah, the caption, his photo that will run in the story is him in midair, and the caption with you specifying him in midair is hilarious. I'm already in on this kid.
I saw that photo in the fall. I was like, if I get a chance to use this, I have to. You should go look at it on the website for those who are subscribers. If you aren't, you should go subscribe anyway.
This picture is worth it with the caption. It just got me just now as you were talking about him.
Pictures are worth it. Yeah, I was like, I have to. If I write about him, I have to include this in it. Axel Osborne, 6'3", 170 pounds. Really good skater for someone of that size. He's such a good shutdown D man. I'm very curious to see if there's a little more offense to his game. I think he should be big. Nolan O'Sullivan was someone that I talked about. BC High at 16 points. He's going to be a leader for them. And then you get into Stephen Constantine. He can be dominant. He can absolutely be dominant. He had 23 points last year as a junior. I absolutely expect him to have more this year at AC. I think, as I talked about before, they're going to be a team that is fighting to get in the top 10, and they have the credentials for it. He's the leader of that. So he's going to be huge. And Tyler Bourget is just dominant. I mean, I like every time I've seen him playing against D1 teams, in showcases, at the D2 level, you can't miss him. 47 points last year. He's skilled. He's got some grit. He's got a little bit of a power forward. He's another one that I would like. I don't know what his next plans are after high school. A lot of these kids want to go play club, want to go be a college kid. That's awesome. He's someone that if I'm a prep school, I'm taking a look at as like a PG. I think he's that good. So those are sort of some of the players that we didn't mention their teams, so I didn't get a chance to mention. There are more. Pat, as we say every year, there are always more players. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how it all rolls through.
Well, that's a wrap on boys MIAA. We'll get to girls MIAA with our top 10 and our players to watch.
Yeah, Pat, let's jump into some girls MIAA, which is always fun. Not a huge shock, your number one team, because this team was a wagon last year in the D1 tournament. You got Hingham. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, in prep, I kind of did it's tough because you're all anti-defending champion number one. Girls prep and girls MIAA, it wasn't really a lifetime achievement award. I think Loomis is the number one team in girls prep right entering the season. I think Hingham is the number one team in the MIAA entering the season. But that said, wouldn't shock me if they didn't hold on to the number one ranking very long. I think there are some good teams right on their heels. But you lose Caroline Doherty, your historic all-time leading scorer. She's a post-grad at Williston now. Addie Garrity's off to college. Faye Richardson, your top defender, or one of your top defenders, is off to the prep ranks. But you still got a lot coming back. Courtney Turner's a great coach. You get CC Flynn on the blue line as a captain. She's a great shutdown defender. Maybe not the flashiest player, but just always makes good plays, smart plays, moves the puck effectively, good stick. And you in net, you got both goalies back, both Izzy Pulio and Izzy McGar. They were strong last season. Pulio led that championship run. And then up front, you have Hannah Lash and Callie Crean. Lash is a Holy Cross commit for soccer, good athlete. She's been a good producer for them, in a secondary capacity the last few seasons. And Callie Crean really broke out last season and was a big goal scorer for them. She's got a really impressive shot, gets a lot on it. I think Hingham's still going to be in good hands with those leaders.
Yeah, Hingham is always there, and it's not a surprise they're back as your number one team. I'll give you a pass, Pat, on having the former champs be number one. Then you get into Archie's at 2. Interestingly enough, they were number 5 in the D1 tournament last year. What are you looking for with them, and how are they number 2? That's pretty high ranking.
Yeah, I talk about those teams that are kind of right on Hingham's heels. Archie's graduated a lot. They graduated their starting goalie, Kate McLeish, all-time leading goal scorer with Caroline Batchelter, Shay Nolan, who was a great forward as well. But they bring a lot back. They've been a young team the last 2 years. I remember 2 years ago when they lost to St. Mary's in, I think, the quarterfinals, and they gave St. Mary's a hell of a game, nearly ended their championship run. I wrote that Archie's will be back, and they were last year, and they're going to be back again this year. Izzy O'Brien was awesome last year as a freshman. Julie Murphy's been terrific as an 8th grader and then a freshman last year. Mackenzie Lima Tower is someone who's a lot of fun to watch. Emily Fleming will be a big forward as well. And on D, Aaliyah Greenwood's been someone who's impressed me every time I've seen them. She's got the size. She's, got the puck moving ability and can also defend very well. Kendall Nolan's also on D. And in net, it's going to, it's up for grabs with McLeish off to graduation. You got Maggie Shea and Anna Donovan as the incumbents coming back. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out in net with them.
So those are your top 2. And then you get into Duxbury, friend of the pod, Dan Najarian, great guest, coach them. They fell a little early last year. They lost to Marshfield fairly early. Seems like they're out for revenge at number 3.
Yeah, I was surprised that they fell that early last year. They were, I think, they were my favorite in D2. They were really good last year. Again, they're only a year removed from back-to-back titles. They did graduate 9 seniors. So we get into, I think 1 and 2 for me were pretty clear. 3 through the rest of the field was up for grabs. I already heard from Dan this morning about being number 3. He loves it.
Does he love does he love being lower, or that you're not putting them at 1? Like, what's the...
Well, I mean, I think just A, loving the coverage.
Thank
B,
you.
little friendly banter. We'll take it. We'll take it, number 3. And it was something I did want to touch on now, and it's kind of like that 3 through 10 thing I just talked about. We talked about the prep teams where it's like, this is the hardest time of year to rank the teams, especially MIAA. Prep, it's a little easier to get a gauge on the incoming freshman classes. MIAA is a little harder. And so, you get a little hit or miss there, but Duxbury, very deserved.
We've never missed, Pat. We've never missed.
You're right.
Never
I definitely haven't missed with putting Duxbury this high, because they have their leading scorer back in the fold, Addie Harrington. She just won a D2 state title in soccer as a goalie. Shay Martin's back. CC Tremonte was awesome as a freshman last year. The big thing will be on D. They lost Sammy Norton. Alana Gallagher comes back with experience. And then, like Archie's, it's up for grabs in the crease. Both Corinna Perry and Bryn Scott graduated, so it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds.
So that's the top 3. Then you get into Methuen Tewksbury at 4. They were a 6 seed last year. What are you thinking with Methuen Tewksbury?
My thing with Methuen Tewksbury is the goalie. They have Lydia Barnes back. She was awesome last year. I can find it, I think, in my players to watch. She had some ridiculous numbers. There it is, alphabetical order. She had a 108 goals against and 8 shutouts, and she was pretty much the heartbeat of that run to the semis. She was awesome last year. You lose some key pieces, MJ Patishi, Bree Lawrence, but you're bringing back a lot. And starting with Barnes, you got Lila Chapman on D, Lauren Ryan on D, Sammy Ryan up front, Sarah Morano up front, Emily Barbosa as well. And they have a new coach this year. Ryan Sheehy is the interim. Dave O'Hearn unfortunately passed away in the offseason after a battle with cancer. So they'll obviously, have something to play for, to say the least. But they do nonetheless bring back a good group of returners with Barnes and Chapman and the Ryan sisters.
Yeah, so they clearly are a loaded team, and I think, as you said, having Lydia Barnes back is going to be massive for them. Then you get to Milton at 5, which that's where the New England Hockey Journal offices are. So we love Milton too. They fall in the D2 final last year. They were sort of a fun story, though. What do you think is in store for them this year? It doesn't seem like they're under the radar anymore.
Yeah, they were 24-2 last year. They bring back a lot. Sabrina Stone was their leading scorer last year. Nayeli Thayer was also a big scorer for them, and so was Noelle Gorham. And on D, Marin Hart was great last year, and Kara Hart was the big piece in net as a freshman. She's back as a sophomore. That's part of the core group they have coming back. They still have plenty of firepower to build on last year's momentum.
And then you get to yours, Pat, number 6. Might have to ask about some bias here. Malden Catholic comes in at number 6. MC, they were really strong last year in D1, so I mean they're rightfully in the top 10. What are their prospects this year?
Yeah, MC is interesting. Another team where it's kind of like, it could be 6, they could be 9, they could be 4. It's Ava Baker was their big player last year. Really, like, even the last 2 years, she was one of the best defenders in the state. She's at Endicott now, if memory serves. But they bring back their top 2 forwards, Nevin Mustone and Abby Poole. Poole was their leading goal scorer last year. She's a pretty fast skater. Mustone plays a good game in all 3 zones. Good center for them. On D, it's going to be replacing Ava Baker and some other seniors they graduated. You got Olivia Arsenault, Casey Kelly, Megan Van Dorp's another piece up front, and it's kind of a common theme with a lot of these teams we've talked about. Question marks in net. You graduate Meg Malarkey, so it's how can the group step up in front of a new goaltender, and how do things shake out in the crease?
Then you get to number 7. This is an interesting team. They were the number 2 seed in the D1 group last year. They fall early, and they're also losing a lot. I don't want to say down to number 7, but Notre Dame Hingham, I'm curious how you have them sort of in the bottom echelon of the top 10.
Yeah, it's kind of like Zavarian on the boys, where NDA is routinely a top 4 team for us the last 2 years. New coach this year, Bill Burke. His daughter Emma is going to be at St. Paul's this year. She's a standout defender. She was awesome for NDA the last 2 years. They also lost their top scorer, Jocelyn Gray, who was really good last year. She's at St. Mark's now. That's a good get for them. And they lost a lot of key senior forwards. Emily Coughlin, Sarah White, Morgan Brady. Some of the heartbeats of your team are off to graduation. But they do have the goaltending piece figured out. Erin Crowell was one of the best in the state last year. NDA typically plays a really stingy game, and they have the goalie to be able to do that, to win 1-0, win 2-1, or what have you. On D, even though they lose Burke and some others, you still got Caitlin Ryan and Ella Faraday. On D, and Faraday's been someone who's impressed in the past. She's a big frame, good kind of shutdown defender there. So we'll see what happens with the Cougars, with their forward group.
Then you get to the 8, 9, and 10. We get to sort of the bottom grouping of the top 10, which is still really good. I made that sound worse than it is. Bishop Feehan at 8. What are you thinking with them?
Yeah, I thought about that, what you just said when we were doing our boys, where you said Zavarian, it might. You didn't say it, but it might be taken as a slight, being number 7, low in the top 10, but you're still 7 of like 100 teams in the state of Massachusetts. It's pretty good. This is 8, 9, and 10 is kind of where I took my swings. And it's where you should be taking your swings in your top 10. So in March, I can say, hey, I was right. Bishop Feehan, I think, is going to be pretty fun this year. They lose their all-time leading scorer, Coley Brita. But, bring back a lot of the same pieces. Georgia Murray's going to be key amongst them. Just a good athlete, someone who stood out when I've seen Feehan in soccer. She stood out with, I believe she's on the 16 UMass Spitfires, playing with a lot of prep players there. And she had the most productive season in program history last season. She had, I think it was 58 points as a freshman after she had 23 points as an 8th grader, or maybe it was freshman, sophomore. I might have my wires crossed there. But, they bring back her, Annie Lowe, Mia Zamiello, Mackenzie Brita, On D, you got Izzy Cox, Julia Carey, Kaylin Quinn, and you got both goalies back. Aviva Olitsky was the starter last year. Gina Zolo is one of their captains. Um, Feehan, I think, is going to be really fun this year, and excited to see how Georgia Murray can produce.
I remember during your first year in 23-24, St. Mary's Lynn was up near the top. They were dominant. They wanted, they won in Division One. They were under 500 last year. And they seemed to, it was sort of like a reset. Now they're at 9 for you. How do you see them sort of taking that next step?
Yeah, they were really young last year. They're going to be young again. Alyssa Norden's going to be a junior. She was their top scorer. She's been someone who's been really good the last 2 seasons for them. 2 years ago when they won the title, Bella Freitas got a lot of the headlines, rightly so. But it was Norden who was right there kind of on the top line with her, not even just riding shotgun, driving play herself. She scored the game winner in that marathon overtime game for the D1 championship. She was awesome last season. Kira Toomey's been good as well. And, one of the players I think we're kind of most excited to see is Emma Doucette this year. She was a 6th grader last year. You would have never known she was a 6th grader. She, physically looked every bit the part of a, freshman, sophomore, junior. Had key production for them. So the 7th grader this year, presumably after a good summer. It's going to be a fun player to watch. On D, you got Shay Denning, Kaylee Dinkle, Camden Driscoll. And you got 2 goalies in net who have proven to be reliable in the past, Meg Donato and Avery Seco. St. Mary's, I think, could really take a step this year with, all the just returning experience they have up front. If Doucette kind of becomes a premier producer for them, if both goalies keep it up, and if you get the contributions on D.
So would Doucette be a 13? She had 2013?
I think she's a 12. Let me double check that real quick.
Okay. That's crazy. Because I remember we talked about her a ton last year.
Yeah, I mean, she was 12 years old playing varsity hockey last year. Graduation year 2031. It's like, you and I make the jokes all the time. Every time like Mass Festival rolls around, it's, oh, this year it's the 10s, and next year it's the 11s. So these are just fake years. Matter of time until, we're seeing probably Emma Doucette in the final 40 with either the 12s or the 13s, whatever her year is.
I'm going to say, if she ends up staying at St. Mary's, she'll have played there for like 7 years. But I will see what happens with that. But that's incredible. I mean, I've said it on this podcast 1,000 times, how good she is and what she's able to accomplish as a 6th grader last year is just plain crazy. Then against number 10, rounding out the top 10, you got Waltham in there, Pat. What do you think of their hopes and their prospects entering this winter?
Waltham's another swing for me. 13-6-2 last year. The big player we're going to watch is Molly Whittier. She was awesome as an 8th grader last year. She played in that premier prep league this summer with a lot of prep players, some, a lot of her peers or even a couple older kids. It was a lot of freshmen, sophomores, and she belonged in that group. She looked every bit the part. Coming off a productive 8th grade year, now a freshman. She's going to be a lot of fun to watch. You also got Sophia Lafosse, up front as a senior. On D, Ava Anderson's been productive. You got Juliana Fry, and then again the big piece in net, Mayana Ball is back. She was fantastic last season. Let me find her numbers. She had a .931 save percentage, a .155 goals against, and 6 shutouts. That's the big piece.
That ain't bad. Not gonna you can't complain with those numbers. When it comes to players to watch, you've mentioned a lot of them already, but there are quite a few in your story that's going on Tuesday. Or went on Tuesday, whenever you're listening to this podcast, that we haven't mentioned. Who are some of the players you're going to be watching that their teams aren't in the top 10 this winter?
Yeah, with Haverhill, Pentucket, North Andover, Mia Kimiek, I hope I say that right. She had 31 points last year, 18 goals. They lost a lot of producers. More of the spotlight's going to be on her. They're another team that's always in the mix. They were in the semifinals last year. Moving down, Amelia Pays, Arlington Catholic. She was a 7th grader last year. She was another player in that PPL league over the summer. Who 7th grader? She was, I think, the youngest player on the ice. Couldn't tell. She's an awesome skater. Going to be really interesting to see the production she has at AC as an 8th grader. Rebecca Sobel, that Shawsheen Bedford Lowell was really productive last year. As a co-op, and it was her and Violet LaRusso at the forefront of that. Sobel had 48 points and 28 goals. LaRusso had 47 points and 23 goals. So they're ones as well. Maeve Turner's been someone who's been really good at Falmouth, as an underclassman. She had 43 points as a sophomore, 39 points as a freshman. Pretty good. She was playing with good players. More of the spotlight will be on her this year, but she's proven she's able to produce. And then Olivia Wilson at Newburyport reached the 100-point milestone last year. That's a big deal. 38 points, 27 goals. She had 40 points as a sophomore. Felt like every game last year she was having 2 goals, hat trick, 4 assists, in that, just one of the more productive players in the state. So that's certainly something to watch there. And I think we've covered it all as far as players we haven't mentioned yet.
Yeah, I think we got everybody. Are there any teams that you were debating putting in your top 10 that didn't make it?
I'd put, Shawsheen Bedford Lowell in that mix, Falmouth in that mix, HPNA, a lot of the usual suspects. And again, like you said, boys, that our top 10 is probably going to change a lot, probably pretty quickly as we learn a lot more about these teams. Like we said, hardest time of year to rank these teams. So I mentioned this to Dan when we texted earlier. It's, this is the fun part is when you get into the season and you can see who emerges, which teams, which players, which freshmen you didn't know about comes out of nowhere and is just lighting it up.
Damn right. Completely agree with you. We've touched on everything, MIA boys, MIA girls. But before we go, Pat, we can't possibly forget our great producer, David Yaz, and overtime.
Overtime is typically the portion of the program where I give each of our panelists here 3 questions, but there's a tradition that has developed in recent episodes of a trivia throwdown between Evan and Pat. This will continue today. They look nervous. You don't look happy at all about this, Evan.
Pissed.
I love trivia.
Pissed.
We will be visiting movies and TV shows that are either about hockey or have a hockey theme of some sort or anything of that nature. There are 3 questions each. If necessary, we will go to a tiebreaker. We will start with, Pat, are you in the lead here? Are we keeping track of the season totals? I don't recall.
I haven't kept track, but I feel like I would be leading. If there's an answer that has Hideo Nomo in there somewhere, I bet I would get it before Evan, but this is not the baseball podcast. This is the hockey podcast, so Evan might have a chance.
Hideo Nomo, did throw a no-hitter for the Red Sox. I don't believe he's ever even been to a hockey game. But nevertheless, question number 1, we'll start with you, Evan. In the 1992 film, The Mighty Ducks, Coach Gordon Bombay is played by what actor?
Damn it.
Man, people in my generation are now very disappointed in you.
Pissed. Yeah, I don't blame them.
Member of the Brat Pack, famous brother.
He was in the Breakfast Club.
I don't know it. I don't know it. I've watched the Mighty Ducks in years.
This isn't really. He's the star. He's like the guy. Pat, do you know it?
Emilio Estevez.
That's correct. You don't get a point for that though, because there's no stealing in overtime trivia. Pat, it is your turn. In the film Slapshot, what is the name of the notorious trio of brothers known for their brawling and thick glasses?
The Hanson brothers.
Oh,
right. And Pat takes the lead 1-0. Okay.
That's the default Halloween costume. If I don't have any ideas, because I got the Charlestown Chiefs jersey, and you just find some old movie 3D glasses, put some tape on them, and you got the tin foil.
Yeah, it's a can't miss Halloween costume. Absolutely right. We'll give you an extra point for that. No, we won't. All right, Evan, back to you. What 2011 movie follows Doug the Thug Glatt, an exceedingly nice but dim-witted bouncer who becomes the enforcer for the Halifax Highlanders, a minor league hockey team?
that would be Goon.
That's correct. And Evan's on the board. Well done. All right. You might have tied it up here, Evan. The next one's a little bit difficult for Pat. What 1999 movie starring Russell Crowe features a violent pond hockey scene that sparks the film's central conflict?
Oh, I got nothing on this one.
It's a hard one.
I don't know this one.
That's a
I have
tough
no
one
idea.
considering all the smack we're talking.
Mystery Alaska is the name of that film. All right. We move to the final round, tied 1-1. Back to you, Evan. What long-running hockey-centric Canadian TV series follows the exploits of Wayne, Daryl, Katie, and Squirrely Dan?
Is that not a blank? Is that show with Terry Ryan?
I don't.
The Terry Ryan one is the spinoff.
Right.
Okay. I haven't. Just as a guess.
Yep.
It's not Trailer Park Boys, is it?
No, but I mean, right genre, wrong show.
Yeah.
Pat, you know it?
Letterkenny.
Letterkenny is Clint favorite. Yep. So for the win, this goes to Pat, and I think you're in trouble, Evan. I'm just saying.
Well, if he gets this wrong, we need to do overtime of overtime.
No,
Well, I got the 2 steals as a tiebreaker.
No, you
No,
don't.
that's-
No, you don't. I have.
Okay, never.
If he misses it, I have a tiebreaker question if necessary. I do have one. All right. What, Pat? What 2007 movie with the tagline "Kick Some Ice" featured a figure skater named Chaz Michael Michaels? Oh man,
Blades of Glory.
that's correct.
Damn it.
Pat Donnelly continues his reign of terror in overtime trivia.
That's in like the Will Ferrell stuff that I haven't like quite seen.
So you haven't seen Blades of Glory?
No, but I do remember, like, I don't know if I've seen the whole thing, but I have seen like the clips of Will Ferrell in the suit and all that.
It's not exactly Citizen Kane, but it's worth watching. It's a fun movie.
Yeah, it's in the same stratosphere as whatever one where he's what's it, the basketball player Jackie Moon.
Semi-pro. That's a great
I
movie.
haven't seen them in their entirety.
Just semi-pro on ice, basically.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't seen Goon, but you said 2011, and you gave enough context, and I was like,
Right.
yeah, I think that's pro.
That's what I was.
Yeah, we're online enough to know.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Goon either, but it's based on a true story of a real life enforcer, I guess. But whatever. Anyway, Evan, you did your best. You brought it right down to the wire, and we're proud of you. At least that's what I say on the podcast. So,
Has Pat been dominating is Pat been like dominating on like the soccer or baseball podcast? We've never done trivia on this.
oh, you haven't?
No.
I don't think we have.
I think you have though.
Have we?
But it's I might be conflating it with other podcasts, but I'm fairly sure we've done hockey trivia. Well, next episode, Evan, you'll have a chance to come back.
I'm gonna study.
Soccer and baseball, I'm either right there or completely clueless.
Yeah. Well done, boys. Back to you guys to wrap it up.
Well, that's it. Pat, you killed me. you skewered me. You killed me on that one. It's funny though, Pat, because like with trivia, one of my friends, a bunch of my friends and I, a couple months ago, we went to a bar trivia, and we were like, we're gonna dominate. We were horrible, horrifically bad. It's like I'm not a good trivia guy. I'm not
Bar
great at it.
trivia, though, is even for people that are good at trivia. Bar trivia can be frustrating because it's first the questions become exceedingly hard, and there are always one or two teams that for some reason just know frickin' everything, and so it's like you know, Dan's dastardly doodads are perfect again with they have 15 out of 15. It's like who the hell are these guys?
It's like a scramble in golf. You go to those charity tournaments, and someone comes in 24 under, and you're like, I thought I was feeling pretty good at -8.
You're right. 100% right. Well, that's RinkWise. A lot of MIAA coverage coming, a lot of high school coverage, prep coverage. It is that time of year. Always a fun episode. That's Patrick Donnelly. I'm Evan Marinofsky. We will see you at the rink.